Well, after another month-long hiatus, Girl Meets World is finally back with one of its most relatable episodes yet. Hey guys, I'm for Girl Meets World, Season 3, Episode 16, Girl Meets Her Monster, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode. Just the premise in general, I was definitely looking forward to. And I was just happy to see another Girl Meets World episodes again, because recently it's very rare that we have one, and in the coming week it's going to be very rare. I mean, the next episode, we're not getting till November 18th. They're really trying to stretch out this third season, and I get why. I mean, there's 30 episodes. They want to stretch it out as much as possible. I totally understand that. But either way, definitely looking forward to this episode. And for me, this was a great episode. I really did love this episode overall. I know a lot of people have been complaining about this episode. And I'm not going to lie, this episode to me was very, very relatable. And I meant it in the beginning when I said this was a very relatable episode. Most of what goes on in the episode are things I've done. I'm not gonna lie. I've done things very similar to the way the situation happens in this episode, and maybe it's just because I was a crazy kid in freshman year, and that I did some things I'm really not proud of, and that's why this episode was so relatable to me. Maybe that's why I was able to take it seriously, but for me, I really did love what happened in this episode. But let's just get into it. Basically, this episode, we see Riley and Maya at the bay window, and they're actually not talking. They're actually singing to the theme song from their favorite show, Red Planet Diaries. And I've done that before, definitely many times. I've just watched an intro and, burst out singing it. And basically, apparently, I've been watching this show basically all week to prepare for the season finale, which is something that Topanga has very much realized, and it's really starting to annoy her, you can definitely tell. But she tells Riley that if she comes to the bakery and helps out Topanga because she needs help, because she needs someone to cover shifts, and she needs Riley to be there for her, if she can be there at the bakery, then she's fine with it. And I thought that was definitely a very good start, the way they set up this conflict, because right off the bat, you can tell that Riley is too into this show, and she just doesn't really want to help Topanga. And, I mean, the way that Riley is in this scene, I've done this many times, where you're kind of like half listening. You're like, oh yeah, I'll do that, but you're not really listening to what they say. I still do that. I am a senior in high school, and I'm not gonna lie, there are still some times where I don't really listen to what my parents are telling me to do. I still do that, and especially someone like Riley. I could very much relate to what Riley is going through in this episode, because Riley, of course, she doesn't rebel a lot, so it was weird to see her rebel in this episode, but you understood. I mean, not everyone is perfect, and Riley in general is not perfect. If Riley was perfect, I'd hate her character. I'm glad that she's not perfect, and that's one of the reasons why I really do like Riley. But Topanga tells him, look, it's Monday, they need to get to school, they need to stop watching this show, and Topanga ends up sending them both out the window and on their way, and Riley tells her that they can still watch the rest of the episodes after school, but Topanga reminds her that she's working at the bakery after school, but of course, Riley refused. So right off the bat, you can tell there's going to be a very big conflict between these two, and I really think they did a good job of giving Topanga something genuinely really well done, and it really does show the relation between these two very well in this episode. So, something I really liked about this episode is we get back to school, Maya's actually not necessarily on Riley's side. She's saying, look, Riley, this is ridiculous, you should listen to your mom, that's all you really need to do. It's really not that big of a deal. But Riley is so into this show that she can't help but rebel. And again, it makes sense. Riley's someone who doesn't do a lot of bad things, so when she does something really bad, it has catastrophic results. And you definitely do see that in this episode. And I thought they did that really well here. But basically, Corey's trying to tell Riley, look, you gotta let this go, you can't let this get to you, saying that the battle with Topanga, it's just unwinnable, but Riley attributes her behavior to normal teenage rebellion, and honestly, yeah, that's essentially what it is. It's normal teenage rebellion that her parents simply don't really understand. I mean, I think all teenagers, they rebel at some point, and they rebel in these really weird ways, especially someone like Riley, who does nothing inherently wrong, and she's done something really, really bad, and it just kind of gets worse and worse, which we'll get into. But Corey compares it to Godzilla in Japan, how they can't really defeat Godzilla. It's a one-sided battle, and there's nothing Riley can really do about it. And that's how a lot of fights with parents work. I mean, a lot of times, no matter what you do, your parent is on the right side, supposedly. They're supposed to be on the right side, and you are supposed to just give in to them. So I get why Riley's feeling this way. She feels like she's right. She feels like she's entitled to this, and I totally understand that. Honestly, I really do understand where she's coming from with this. I know it's silly, but I understood where Riley was coming from. So we get this really good scene, though, at the bakery where Topanga is all by herself, and honestly, I did feel really bad for her because you can tell she's really not enjoying it. She's having to do it all by herself, and I like the way we got to see Topanga working at the bakery for once. We never get to see this, and this is a really good way showing how stressful of a job Topanga really has. I mean, think about it. She runs this bakery by herself. She's handing out pies to everyone. I mean, it is really a lot of work, and you definitely do see that. Danielle Fishel did such a great job in this episode. I get why she hasn't really had a ton to do. She's directed a lot of episodes this season, so I understand why she hasn't really had a ton to do in the show in general, but it was cool to see her actually have something to do. But Riley is again watching the show, watching watching Red Planet Diaries with Maya. You could tell that, and I knew she was obviously going to defy Topanga. I could just tell that there was no way that she was going to do that. This is when things get really bad. Topanga angrily storms in, and I really did understand where both of them were coming from. Topanga feels that this is ridiculous, that's over a TV show, that Riley needs to listen to her, but Riley feels like she's entitled to her own opinion. You understand it, you really do. I didn't feel that Riley was being bitchy. I thought that she was being a typical teenager who rebels a lot, and she makes the excuse that I am entitled, I can do what I want, you shouldn't expect me to do this, and you shouldn't get upset at anything wrong that I do. And you understand why Riley feels this way. She feels like because she's done nothing wrong, that she's just allowed to do anything, which obviously isn't true at all, but I think really sets up why things turn out the way they do at the end of this episode. So Topanga angrily decides to take away all her electronics so that way she can't watch the show hoping that she can make her, let her learn, what really is right from wrong, and you totally do understand why she did that, obviously. I mean, I totally understand why she did that. She even takes Maya's phone away. I mean, it's really bad. She takes Maya's phone away, too, and I understood why she did that, because Maya would try to get her to watch the show. That way, there's no way they can watch the show whatsoever. So, obviously, Riley's kind of fucked. You definitely do see that, and Riley obviously gets very upset when everyone in her school is talking about the Red Planet Diaries finale, and I have been in that situation. It is a horrible situation when people are talking about a show that you don't watch, and you really want to watch it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times in freshman year I had to listen to people talking about Breaking Bad when I haven't seen a single episode of that show, and I just watched the finale just so I knew what people were actually talking about. I mean, I think we all go through that situation at some points, and it's even worse when it's a show that you like and you don't get to watch it. I mean, there are many times where I've missed homework, or I've I've been lazy, or I've just done something really wrong that my parents tell me, oh, you can't watch this show, and I do the same thing. I do what Riley does. I try to watch it. I try to continue doing the same thing. Why? Because I'm stubborn. I'm a stubborn person, and I think many teenagers are very stubborn, and they definitely did show that here. Teenagers in general are just very stubborn. We don't make good decisions. We're not very smart, and this really did show that pretty well. But then things get really bad between Riley and Topanga, because Riley comes home basically to tell Topanga off and tells her straight up that she is not being fair to her, she feels. She feels that she's hurting her, and there's no way that she should be feeling this way. She thinks she's being unfair and unreasonable, but Topanga says that Riley's being disrespectful, and as long as Riley's still living under their roof, she's asked to do something she's expected to do. And Riley then says something that I'm not gonna lie, I've said many, many times to my parents, and I don't anymore, but years ago, I said this. I said, she says straight up, look, if you don't want me living under your roof, I'm going to leave. And she actually plans on leaving. And I did that many times my freshman year. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Many times in my freshman year, my sophomore year, any year, not this year, obviously, because I'm more mature now and things like that. I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm mature, I don't do anything wrong. I still do things that are wrong, obviously, but I'm a little bit more rash. I don't do anything rash like Riley did. She decides on leaving, and she ends up moving in with Maya with no clothes, nothing really planned out. All she really plans on doing is, I believe she said something like becoming, I don't remember exactly what she pretended on doing, but she actually does leave Topanga. Things do get really bad there, and right off the bat, she wants to go see Topanga again. She knows she hurt Topanga. She knows that Topanga isn't the same without her, and she can tell why Topanga really felt the way she did. She understands that Topanga really said this to her to raise, to help her, and I think this was a really good way of showing that Riley isn't really changed. She's just going through something where she doesn't get angry a lot, so when she does defy her parents, it obviously does have a lot of results. You definitely do see that. Topanga, on the other hand, is just as lost without Riley. You see that Augie, who I really like in this episode, they give Augie a really good role. He's trying to be the good child, the one that does nothing wrong, and that's very typical for a young child to do, you know, to think that he's the good child, but he wants to be just like Riley, which I thought was funny to see. I definitely like that, but Topanga ends up going back to Maya's house, while Riley goes back to her house, and they're not anywhere. It's kind of a typical sitcom gag, but I thought it worked really well when these two realize, you know, that she was in the wrong, and Topanga realizes that she needs to maybe not be as much of, not be, you know, she can enforce the rules, but she doesn't need to be as demanding as she was, and maybe she should give Riley more privileges. Now, Riley's still grounded, but I did like the way that things ended up with them realizing, you know, that for the better, they need to just listen to each other. I really liked it overall, and it was a very realistic way of doing that. I mean, yeah, obviously Riley did go to Maya's house, but it's the perfect idea of how Riley didn't really have any sort of ground plan, and again, this is something that I did a lot. You make these decisions without actually having any sort of plan or any idea what you're actually going to do, and that is exactly what Riley did. She had no idea where she was going to go with that. She didn't know, you know, that she knew she was going to Maya's, but she had no other plan, and I think they showed that very well here, and the episode ends in this great way where Riley's still grounded, but she ends up singing the Red Planet Diaries theme song along with everyone else, and I really did like the scene where Topanga's on one side of the door, Riley's on the other side, and it just shows that these two really do care about each other and what they really do need. I really did like that overall. Just a really good representation of showing, you know, the love between mother and daughter. I really love that. Really good way to end the episode, and for me, definitely, like I said, one of the most relatable episodes yet. Really good stuff there. So overall, not a ton to say about this episode. I said what I needed to say. I overall really enjoyed this one. I thought it was funny, especially the scenes where you had Farkle, Lucas, and Zay talking about the show they watched, and Riley and Maya didn't. Again, very relatable stuff. I've been there before, definitely. Or the scenes where Riley, you know, is watching Red Planet Diaries, just seeing her obsession with it. I have been there so many times. You guys know I love to watch, I love TV shows. I review TV shows for you guys. There have been times my parents have taken away my laptop and I still find ways to watch the show. I've done that many times before, so I was definitely in Riley's situation there. And I didn't think she came across as bratty or out of character. I thought she came across as a typical teenage girl who is very good and doesn't really do anything wrong. And because she does nothing wrong, when she does something wrong, it's the worst possible thing she could do. It's just one bad thing after the other. And that's how teenagers typically are, especially when they're good like Riley. And I thought they showed that really well here. Someone like Maya, if she were to do something like that, the reason that she was so rash about it is because Maya's done so many bad things before that she knows the consequences. Riley really doesn't. Riley always does the right thing. Well, not always, but Riley most times does the right thing, and that's why she, I think, was very rash about this. I think that's really why. But overall, guys, how much you guys saw this episode? Was this episode as relatable for you as it was for me? I don't know if it's sad that this episode was relatable for me. Maybe it's just something to say about me as a freshman, which there is a whole different story. If you guys want to check that out, just watch videos of me in 2014. I was not the person I am today at all, definitely. But that's it for my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall. Loved your thoughts on it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for a movie review, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.